Michigan versus Washington is about as good a contrast in styles as we can get for the national championship game. And I was racking my brain, what is this? What does this compare to? What's the data point in history? And of course, it's March 29th, 1987. It's 93,173 people in the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan for WrestleMania 3. It's Hulk Hogan. It's Andre the Giant. It's the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. That's basically what we have this Monday night in Houston, more or less. I don't think the outcome's been determined yet. And hey, to hear Hulk Hogan tell it, the outcome of that match wasn't determined until the day of. But I can't wait for the matchup, just the clash of styles. Now, what I will say, as you look in the top of the screen here, or if you listen on podcast and you hear that FanDuel currently has Michigan as a 4.5-point favorite, I will say this. Sometimes when you have these contrasting styles and you have these point spreads under a touchdown, everyone walks around day of the game. I hear it every single time. And they say, oh, it'll be a great game tonight. Oh, man, it's going to come down to the whoever has the ball last. I don't know about that. Sometimes in a styles clash matchup, it's 30-10 in the fourth quarter. Other times it's 30-30, or maybe it's 10-10 in the fourth quarter. I don't necessarily have the best feel on that. I do have a kind of feel on the style of game we're going to get. So let's just hop into this. I wonder if Michigan's going to take the bait. J.J. McCarthy could set himself up to have opportunities to go off in this thing. But as you well know, Michigan is a run-first team, and they are very good. I got Blake Corum. He's one of the best players we've seen in college football. They can run on Washington. I don't think the stat profiles, I don't even think a Washington fan would argue otherwise. 12 of 14 opponents that have faced Washington have gone over 100 on the ground, and several have gone well over 100 on the ground. You got Blake Corum, you got J.J. McCarthy, you got that offensive line. Yes, they can do work on the ground. And it probably best suits Michigan to own the game on the ground and do what they did against Bama, just bleed clock, and it feels like you're never getting the ball back. And certainly there's that voice in the back of your mind that says, the more you have the ball, the less that dude over there, that left-handed quarterback has the ball. Yes, that's all on the table. However, the bait I'm talking about is that offensive staff knowing full well this is the worst pass defense statistically that they have faced all year. Michigan has seen one other pass defense that's even remotely as statistically bad as Washington, and that's Purdue. And J.J. McCarthy went 24 of 37 for 335 against them. So it could very well be that Michigan's offensive brain trust look at this matchup and say, yeah, we could run the ball if we wanted to, but why not take what's there? Why not play to our strengths versus their weakness? And let's let this quarterback we trust go off. Now, the reason I call it bait is because I think that is obviously something that could work for them. But if I were to randomly turn this game on in the third quarter and Washington's up because Michigan's turned the ball over, it's probably that style of play that puts you at greater risk. I don't think they're going to coach scared in the game or anything like that. And it may be that they throw the ball on Washington and they go off. They don't turn the ball over. It's high percentage stuff. It's move the pocket left and right. It's play action. I don't doubt they'll have their stuff together here. I just wonder if they think it necessary. That's my first point there. My second point on this game is explosive plays are the key for Washington. They have been all year. They were against Texas. That insane stat Michael Penix had, he was 7 of 11 for 257 yards on throws that went 15 or more yards in the air. That's not that dump stuff in the flat and let your yards after catch take over. That is balls that leave your hand and go at least 15 yards before it touches your receiver. 7 of 11 for 257. That's video game stuff. You're not supposed to be able to do that in a playoff game. Michael Penix, most 20-plus yard deep balls in America this year, 5.2 yards. Oh, forget the yardage. That wouldn't be a good stat. He averages 5.2 explosive pass plays per game. And yet I just watched Michigan shut down Alabama on that front. Now, this is an entirely different passing attack. I will grant you that all day, twice on Sunday or twice on Monday. But Bama didn't even have a pass over 30 yards. And they have been fairly effective at doing that particular thing this year. Michigan runs a ton of zone. I didn't do the full forensic breakdown of zone versus man and what Michael Penix and Washington have seen this year, but our buddies over at PFF kind of did. Michigan's run zone 76% of their defensive snaps this year. That's seventh most in the country. I don't doubt that that's what Washington sees from them Monday night. And so it may be that you have to be a little more methodical. Or conversely, it could be that Rome Odunze pulls a Marvin Harrison. We were looking at wide receiver ones and what they've done against Michigan this year, and Harrison went off because he goes off against pretty much anyone. But outside of Marvin Harrison, no one really went off at that wide receiver one position against Michigan. But there really isn't a Rome Odunze elsewhere on their schedule. And it's not just him. It's McClellan. It's Polk. Or McMillan, not McClellan. It's him and Polk. It's a bunch of guys. So, there's a school of thought out there from folks picking Washington in this game that there was never an opportunity for Michigan to see this kind of passing attack this year. And that's true. There's no doubt in my mind that's accurate. It comes down to that same age-old question, does good offense beat good defense, which is, if you're not intrigued by the helmets on the field, is what should intrigue you about this game. Because people have argued this forever. And we get another chapter in that philosophy versus philosophy debate Monday night. I think the start in this game is very, very key. A lot of times that's overhyped. A lot of times you get folks who say, I think the first 10 minutes will tell us everything we need to know, which sometimes is completely ridiculous. Other times, though, when you have such a contrast in style and such a difference in the way teams want to play a football game, if you have Michigan go 3 and out and Washington grab an early 7 or 10 point lead and force them to play catch up, that is worlds different than Michigan forcing a 3 and out and going 11 plays, 72 yards in 6 minutes and 48 seconds and putting a score on the board. And then you're scared if they force another 3 and out, we could end up near halftime and we've held the ball twice or 3 times. Obviously, in a game where it's oil and water in terms of philosophy, that's very important. Last game, for each of these teams, think about it, from the Rose Bowl early and the Sugar Bowl late, think about how they came out of the gate. Because as much as Michigan ended up celebrating and winning a game, I thought they played really tight early on. Special teams were a disaster for them all night long. Conversely, Washington came out firing. Now, I don't have any reason to believe that that's just a copy-paste, duplicate that, and that'll be the same Monday night. For all I know, it'll be inverted, and Washington will be tight, and Michigan will play with their hair on fire. But in a weird way, I almost gain confidence if I'm Michigan. Because 8 times out of 10, you're supposed to lose that game. If you play a team as good as Alabama and you're that bad in a third of the game, you're supposed to lose. The fact that you didn't, and now you get an opportunity to clean all that up, it bodes well for me. I'd actually have a little confidence. But also, if I was Kalen DeBoer, if I'm Kalen DeBoer, I've been there before, albeit at a different level. I've coached in championship settings. My team hasn't. But now that I've seen them in the Superdome, in a semifinal against Blue Blood Texas, against that Longhorn, against a 75-25 crowd split, and we never flinched, and we made them play catch-up all night. Dude, my guys didn't have to sit around a month after that game. We went back home, and we got to be back on the road 3 days later, and it's a week afterwards. I don't doubt that both of them will come out firing. Firing means different things for different teams here, but that special teams aspect for Michigan, I'd be very surprised if that was duplicated here. I'm not saying it'll be the best in the world, but I'd be very surprised if that was duplicated here. So we arrive at the moment that everyone's waited on but me. I was like a kid sitting outside the principal's office because they called my parents to come pick me up today. I didn't want this show to arrive. I have been disastrous. The model has been disastrous on Michigan and really Washington this year. And as you know, I've never been wrong on a game in my life. When I have picked a team that didn't end up winning the game, it's always been either kids or coaches or officials who screwed it up. I was right, they screwed it up. My fear is that I could end up being wrong for the first time in my illustrious career tonight, but we're going to do it anyway. The model right now looks at the FanDuel number, which is Michigan minus 4.5, and it says, we think it's right. The model is right here. It's talking to me. It says Michigan minus 5. But anyone who's followed the JP poll all year understands that the model, even today, does not have Washington in its top 5. So it's been wrong all year. So what do we do here? Well, I had a few ideas, but I scrapped all of them. Like I said, I want to be defiant here. I want to lean in. But I also want to tell you something. I think both of you are going to lose Monday night. I just happen to think Michigan's going to lose a little bit less than Washington is. And so, with much angst and anger and bitterness all around the great state of Michigan, I'm telling you guys, I think somehow you're going to pull it out. But before you get mad at me and before you think that I've just written your obituary 3 or 4 days early, Colin, could you please show the fine folks at home what arrived at our doorstep earlier today? Because I ordered P.F. Chang's, and they don't pay us a dime, by the way. But I ordered P.F. Chang's, and I didn't even care what the food was. I just told them, load us up with as many fortune cookies as you can, because I need one. And I cracked open, I want to say 7, Jesse, I cracked open 7 or 8 fortune cookies from P.F. Chang's. I just didn't like the first 7, but on the 8th try, that's what came out. And if you're listening on podcast, it says all I needed to know. And that is victory is just around the corner. I don't care what TSA says. That will be in my pocket when I head over to the airport tomorrow. I am taking that on the road with me, and I'm 0-7 right now picking these games with these teams, but you mark my words. And in the words of Mr. Chang, Mr. PF over there, I will be 1-7 by the time that the confetti settles and the dust settles Monday night. And if that doesn't work, I'll probably just retire these 2 teams and we will never talk about them again. So there you go. I'm picking Michigan not to lose. I'm not even going to be so bold as to pick a winner in the game. But with the wind of P.F. Chang's fortune cookies in my sails, I am picking Michigan not to lose Monday night.